Over the years, as a pastor in various congregations, particularly those that are able to help the poor, like we are, thanks to your gifts, I've been cautioned, Pastor, if you give one person, then be careful, there'll be a long line at your door. More people will be coming if you help one. It's just what happens. And it's true. You give a bus pass to someone, before long, there'll be a line of people looking for bus passes. Now, we can look on this with disapproval and be cautious and say all kinds of negative things. Or we can simply understand it as the survival system of the streets. It's the way the rules of the street work if you are homeless. In many cities around the US, if you eavesdrop, if you take the time to eavesdrop around homeless people, you'll learn some good things, some powerful things. I remember serving in Berkeley, California, walking around the streets there, and I heard some very typical things which you can hear in various other cities. Something like, "How you doing, girl?" Now this is black and white talking the same accent. And then the person will reply, "Okay, I'm getting by." Then the other person will reply, "Hey, you know that church down the road in the corner? They're giving out bus passes, man. You should go down there. You better go now before it runs out. All you need to do is go there and see this nice lady who's at the reception and just tell her your story, and she's going to give you a bus pass without a bother." And then they would walk down the road, and this is real. And you walk down the road and say, "Oh, you know that corner there, that store is giving out free bread." I remember being on the poor side of San Francisco. It's interesting, the sides of the places I'm talking about are student heavy, like ours, like Berkeley. And there's a lot of homeless people. Berkeley has a huge homeless problem, or issue, like we in Gainesville. But I've heard people in San Francisco say, "How are you doing today? Do you need a blanket? Let's go together and sit here. It's warmer there." And someone would light a fire, and everyone will come around, uninvited. I remember thinking when I came away from there, there's a sense of community amongst the homeless that maybe we can learn from, those of us with more means. Everything belongs to everybody, and all resources are connected to everyone else. We can maybe learn how to be my brother's keeper, my sister's keeper. Or we can maybe learn how to be a Christian. To love our neighbors as we love ourselves when we walk around those areas where homeless people survive. Now, let's look at this incident in the life of Mary, and you'll get how I'm connecting that story. Mary and Jesus and his disciples were at a wedding. This is when Jesus' public ministry was just starting. Now, Mary's family was probably poor. You know from various references in Scripture that they were not people of great means. Starting with the whole story of them running around and having a baby in a manger, and just like Jesus saying, "I don't have a place to lay my head, and foxes have holes and birds have nests, but the Son of Man has no place to lay his head." Some of that is figurative, but much of that is descriptive of the life of Jesus. His father was an artisan, which is not about paying job. He lived amongst people who were struggling. His disciples were mostly people who were just getting by. Even if they were tax collectors, they worked for the rich. Therefore, they had to steal because they did not, like Matthew, because they did not have means. So this was a poor community. So if they were invited to a wedding, it was probably a wedding of a poor family. They were related or well known to them. Jesus was invited, and he took his disciples or his friends with him. It was quite a crowd. Not unlike some of the weddings in communities I grew up. If you knew there was a wedding down the road, you went there because there was free food. You were not turned away. It was considered to be part of the way people lived. This is what was going on. We also get an indication that this was probably a poorer family, because if it was a richer family, the wine would not run out. Everyone who came to the wedding, interestingly, everyone who came to the wedding, including Mary, had this sense of community. How do we know this? Because the wine had run out, and Mary felt it was her responsibility. In communities that are poorer, that's what happens. If someone has a need, everyone feels we need to pitch together. We need to do something. If someone dies, you'll find people rocking up there with a pot of food. Not a plate, a pot of food. I'm not appealing for us to get to that. Don't get waylaid by that description. But it was the concern of Mary that there was not enough wine. Her first response might have been, let me send my son, tell him to run home, go and look on that cupboard which you can't reach, climb on a chair, and pick up the box wine. That's what it will be, the poor people. And bring it and come to this wedding. Maybe the family won't be embarrassed anymore. Mary felt responsible. It's very much like the community Jesus is calling us into. In fact, Jesus felt responsible for the 5,000 plus people when he gave them food. Remember, they were not poor people, but they decided we'd rather sit in church and listen to the gospel than go home. They sat for a long time. They were not Lutherans. Even the disciples said, it's not your business. What concern is it to you that they don't have food? But Jesus said, no, we'll give them food. Yet another miracle performed by Jesus, because he cared, because it is his concern. It's the concern of the Lord when anyone is in need. Jesus broke bread and he gave it to his disciples, and he said, go and give it to them. See, Jesus didn't have a hospitality action team, had like we have. So he had to respond supernaturally. It is our concern, brothers and sisters, when people are in need. Jesus asks us like he did of Mary. He said to Mary, woman, which is a generic term, like man, what concern is this to you and to me? And why are you making this my problem? Tell me. That's how he would sound today. Young man, that's what he was. But he was not a petulant young man. This was not about a petulant young man back-chatting in public too. That doesn't happen to us, right? The expression, woman, does not mean something as abrupt as it sounds to us. If it's carefully translated, taking into consideration the culture, the use of language, and also the shortcoming of the English language to be translated from the original language, it sounds different. It means dear lady, dear man. What concern is this to you and to me? Now, he was not calling Mary his mother, mom, or mother. What is this concern of yours? So it seems that the gospel writer is telling us that Jesus is asking all of humankind to ask itself, for you and I to ask ourselves, what concern is it of yours that there is a need? The fact that Jesus responds by turning water into wine tells us that if we see a concern and we want to respond to it out of human kindness and driven by the second commandment, the so-called second commandment, that you love the Lord your God, that you love your neighbor as yourself, then Jesus will respond and do something that goes beyond our wildest imagination. Amen. Jesus did. Our lives are connected and therefore we should care. It is our business when someone is in need. As the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., translating this truth into a particular situation, says, we are caught, excuse me, I should come back. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects all indirectly, said the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. We are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Whatever affects one directly affects us all indirectly. That is the beloved community that Martin Luther King spoke about. In present day, Walter Brueggemann, I think I know that our adult forum is studying his latest book. The theologian Walter Brueggemann is doing his best to make this real, trying to understand and explain, work for this concept of the beloved community, a Jesus community. Making real in everyday life the second commandment, loving our neighbors as we love ourselves. It is our problem when our neighbors are in need. The Me Too movement of today is an issue for you and for me. It's an issue for all of society. It should matter to men that women are treated as less than. Amen? Even in this so-called society, so-called civilized society, women are not treated as equal. Yes, we can overlook the sins of the past and past societies by explaining away the cultural mores of that time, but this is now. It is still happening that women are paid less than men. It is still happening that women are treated as inferior to men in all kinds of ways. Don't get me started. Women are denied their God-given right to be fully human. That's a travesty against God's creation, let alone God's justice. We know from our students that on UF campus, women are warned, there's signs around that says to women, don't walk alone at night. So what that means is that they are saying that you are destined for a life of eternal victimhood. You have to watch yourself. We won't say to men that you will be harshly prosecuted if you even engage in cat whistling. You get what I'm saying? It's not saying that we treat women equally. It's saying to women, societies like this, you just got to be vigilant. Now, yes, it's good to be vigilant, but what are we doing around us in society to make sure that that ill of treating women as less than and as objects, as toys? for the pleasure of men. What are we doing about that? Black Lives Matter is a movement that should matter to all of us. It's a concern to all of us. And so Jesus asks, woman, human being, what concern of ours is this? Why do you bother me? And we should be saying, well, Lord, I'm just being a Christian, Lord. I'm just doing what you asked me to do. I'm just keeping the commandments, even though they come from the Old Testament. When black men are gunned down just because they are racially profiled, it is my concern, it's your concern, it's a concern of society.
Amen.
When black people are treated as less than human and sent away to the east side of the city because the so-called planners want to create a ghetto where people can live. Now don't tell me that that is just the way it is in Gainesville. If you go around the country, you will find that. And I explained this before. It's systematically planned all over the country. Almost telling us that black lives don't matter. But we know this year. We marched the streets last year saying that we believe in love, not hate, when someone came to this city to talk about white supremacy. We should all be concerned. We should all be concerned when families are torn apart by a so-called immigration system that is enforced at the whim and fancy of any political authority. You know, it should hurt us. Even if you haven't met a family like I have, who've been separated by a system that's broken, you and I should still feel that something is wrong and it should be my problem. In South Africa, the workers had a chant that says, an injury to one is an injury to all. At the time of Martin Luther King Jr. and Rosa Parks and all the civil rights leaders of the 60s, they were saying to all of society, it's our problem. If one is not free, then all are not free. This is what Martin Luther said in the line just before the one I quoted. Injustice anywhere is a threat to justice everywhere. Then he went on, we are caught in an inescapable network of mutuality, tied in a single garment of destiny. Hear the words of Jesus related to that and in this context of the scripture that we just read. Jesus, respecting his mother, who taught him so much about what it means to be human, asks respectfully of her, what are your concerns about others? And by his response, if you respond, I will bring the power of heaven to your aid. Together, when we ask Jesus to help us respond to need, to problems, we can win. We can be the witness that God has called us to be. Do you want to be a good neighbor? I don't think it's an option if we call ourselves children of God. Amen.
Amen.